Hello again, everyone. This is Ken Killer, Director of Client Profitability for eTruckBiz. We're just hitting the top of the hour, so if you can sit tight, we'll get some more people joining us here. But want to thank you for being here on time, but we'll be with you shortly. Thank you very much. All righty, it looks like the attendee list has leveled off. Once again, this is Ken with Director of Quality, our Client Profitability with eTruckBiz. I want to thank everybody for being here today. We're going to talk a little bit today about, of course, the volume trends and that, as well as moving into Network 2.0, some of the things that will have to change in your operation. So without further ado, I will turn this over to Jeff Walzak. Thank you very much. Once again, if you have questions, please hold them to the end so we can go over those one at a time. Thank you.
Okay, as always, we have to mention that eTruckBiz is not endorsed, sponsored, approved, or otherwise affiliated with FedEx Ground. Okay, quickly, let's go through some volume trends. Not a whole lot to see here, too much, but the good news, if you want to look at it that way, pickup stops are drifting, but they're drifting at a higher level than they were, let's just say this time last year, which is a good thing. But the packages doesn't look so much like they're hanging in there, but at least the stops are. That's good. That means there's more customers than there were this time last year. So over on the delivery side, kind of have the same thing. It's flat-ish, a little bit under the trend line. That's not so good. And same thing with the packages. It's kind of hanging in there. So this is the time of year this happens. The volume kind of just stays where it is. It doesn't necessarily fly around. You got Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, is that tomorrow, I think? But then Mother's Day will come up and then a couple other things. But usually the volume just kind of hangs in there, right? All right, so the time has come. The time has come. What does that mean? The time has come for us here at eTruckBiz. It's time for us to turn our total focus to helping CSPs, helping contractors get ahead of the express integration, right? So as most of you know, the express integration is the biggest part of Network 2.0, right? It's it is the biggest thing. There are a lot of big things that FedEx is going to do throughout the entire integration of Express into ground. There's a bunch of different names for different things and whatnot, but moving the Express volume over to ground is Network 2.0, and it's It's hanging out there. So we'll be doing some things over the rest of the year. And we'll be doing them through all of our webinars, blog posts, videos, and everything we do here on out is going to be focused mainly on contractors and how we're going to deal with integrating the time definite stops into our operations. All of our new and improved software offerings, including eRoute 2.0. There's a new eRoute out there if you didn't know. There's a new optics app that just got released. And then there's going to be some brand new boss functionality. If you don't know what that is, if you're not a subscriber to eTruckBiz, what this is basically the desktop side of everything. A lot of those BCs and different and AOs and whatnot use their PCs for a lot of different things. There's a whole slew of things coming down the pike very soon for that. We're going to have some seminars and upcoming events that will focus not only on new contractors coming into the business, but the big focus of, again, will be, of course, time definites, how to deal with them. And then we've got some other new products and services up our sleeve that they're coming, and you'll see. One of them is it's probably disruptive in the market, but new stuff's coming. And we want to be there with you and for you as your operations are about to become bigger. What does bigger mean? They're going to get a lot bigger. You're going to have a lot more volume, and that means a lot more revenue. And we're not talking about a little bit here. We're talking about significant business changing and could be for you life changing revenue and volume moves. And yes, these operations are going to be, your operations are going to be more profitable. And I know that I don't know, the narrative out there was built that you can't be profitable running this business and my bills are so bad and everything's so bad. Well, there's about to be a lot of fixes for that are about to be that are coming up, and you'll see. You will be, yes, every one of you watching this video will be more profitable. And when that happens, then your business becomes more valuable, right? So we want to be there with you and for you as your operations blossom into transportation companies. Those of you that have been around for years and years with us, or you know that we've been talking about this for 6, 7 years now, it's about to happen. Your transportation companies are about to become the most desirable in the transportation industry. And there's no question about that. If you talk to others in the industry, in a way, especially a revenue way, and the reliability and the dependability of your revenue, you already are very desirable. But as these operations become more profitable, bigger, more profitable, it's going to be game changing for you. Okay. So we've been talking quite a bit to the CSPs that have already integrated some time definite stops, packages into their operation. Now, the folks that have started already have only done it on a limited basis. There's 30, I think it's 32, I could be wrong. 32, maybe. There's a couple more in Montana now that started, but there are some that have started, but they haven't started full tilt yet. But we've been talking to the folks, and they have some advice they want to share with current contractors. The difference in the way they need to operate with time definites, absolutely, positively, requires culture change. Now, we've said this before. I know you've heard it already. I've already said it. Those of you that come to our seminars and whatnot, you've heard it yeah, you've heard it. But the question is, how do I actually do this? So what are some steps I can take to start this process and actually make it happen? It's one thing to say I need to do this, say I need to do that, but how do I actually make this happen? How do I do this? Now, we're going to just skim over some different topics here because there's a ton. Probably the most important thing that you're going to do as you transition into handling time definites is you're going to have to change your culture. Well, most everybody's going to have to change your culture, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But there's a lot here. So for now, like I just said, we're going to take a kind of a high-level view of what's going on here. So the first step that you can take is you need to take a look at what's going on now. Understand and observe your company's culture as it is now. So what kinds of things happen now in your business, right? You're with your company. And then as you're watching some things that are going on, what types of things are you going to need to keep in the future? But what things are going on now? And what things that happen, and what we mean is what things happen that your drivers value currently, or what do they expect, or what do they think you expect of them, right? So an example of this would be, do they run their routes however they want? Have they been conditioned to take their iPads, circle stops, and move them around and do whatever they want to do with them? Is that how this goes right now? I mean, because if that's what happens with your drivers today, then that's what they expect to happen, and that's their culture. The culture is currently is they can do whatever they want. They're not going to be able to do that in the future. Is the culture, do you have a culture? Do your drivers expect to come in, load their trucks, empty them out, and go home? And I know there's pickups and whatnot, and there's behind the scenes negotiated pickup times that happen and different things, but is that what they expect to do? They expect to get paid by the day, load their trucks up, and go home when they're done. And as we just said, is there anything about what happens currently that's worth saving? Maybe maybe you're strong with safety. Maybe there's the drivers you do well keeping safety in your culture, that kind of thing. That's kind of things that need to stay. So first, take a look at what's currently there. The second thing would be what you'd want to do is be able to measure your current cultural values. Okay, what does that mean? Do you know where your current culture stands? That is what your employees believe your organization's current values are. So what do you expect of them, right? And then how do you measure that? What things do you measure and communicate that tell employees what's important to you? So do they know what you care about? Do they know what's expected of them? So do you share with them, do they know what their inbound local service is, right? I can tell you that the AOs and BCs, they know for sure, probably, what service was previous day or how they're doing service-wise. Do the drivers know? Do they care? If they know, do they care? And here's a big one. Is clocking in and out properly happening? So that's a way to measure your culture. Is it your culture that they're supposed to clock in and out properly? So clocking in and out is probably as basic of a employment function that there is. Just pretty much everywhere anybody works, you can be expected to clock in and out. Not everywhere, that's fine. But is that happening? And is it happening in a way that will get you to pass a payroll audit? So logging into these different apps out there for different things and whatever, and walking through the guard shack and coming into a fenced in or a geo fence, all these different crazy things only lead to trouble as far as passing a payroll audit for sure. But like I said, that's one of those things that if you can get them to clock in and clock out on a system that's unrelated to any FedEx data, anything like that, that's really the right thing to do. And can you get them to do that? So do you measure that? Do you watch it every day? Do they, if somebody doesn't clock in or out, do you say something to them? Does the BC say something to them? Is there a way to get them to do that? That's a cultural thing. Do you use tools that easily measure results? And yes, eTruckBiz has a ton of them, but do you do that, right? So the third step that you'd want to look at to actually start changing your culture is to line up your business culture with your strategy and structure, which kind of is obvious, but is it? Does your culture fit with your company's business strategy? And so for instance, in order for you to have a company, you have to turn a profit. So do you require, is it the culture in your business to put enough revenue on every dispatch so that you can make money? Just ask yourself about that. Think about that. Do you know right now how much money is on each truck today? If you
And
can,
Jeff, to add to that, not only you, does your BC know this? Because quite frankly, they're the ones making the expense decisions every single day. The revenue comes in, is going to come in. What are they going to do with the expenses? Are they going to control them? So do they know how many stops that they have to have on each truck to generate so that truck can generate the revenue? So your BCs have to be intimately involved with this as well.
so in addition to something like that, do you have formal procedures do you have job descriptions? Now, I know a lot of people do have this, but does a new employee, does one of the first things they get, and do you review it with them, what they're expected to do? Do you have selection and recruiting practices? Everybody has to have it somehow, but are they the right ones? Do you do performance appraisals? What systems and processes do you have in place for rewards and recognition? Do you have standard compensation structures, or everybody gets paid a different way, different rates? That's all kinds of stuff going on there. Do you have training programs over and above the maligned train the trainer process that's out there today? Do you actually take, so that's great that you're supposed to ride around with somebody and say, yep, they can drive this truck. Do you do what's called methods training? Do you even know what methods, P&D methods are? If you don't, that's a problem. And then, is there a path? Can you show the drivers, if they're drivers, can you show them a path to maybe becoming a BC or a lead driver or whatever you have maybe in your organization? So another step you can take to change your culture is you want to get everybody to participate in your culture change, right? So culture change won't succeed without a meaningful involvement of everyone throughout your company. So it can range from from people offering individual ideas, solutions, reactions to concepts, to taking part in team meetings and to design and build new culture and organizational structure. So when you go set out to change your company's culture, if that's what you're going to do, are you just going to tell them, hey, today we're going to all punch in on the eTruckBiz app and that's how we're going to do? Or are you going to explain to them ask them why they can't involve everybody, have a meeting, find out why, well, I can't do this, I can't, whatever it is. You got to get everybody in there. And then there's a pro tip. If you're setting out to change your culture, anytime you do anything with your drivers, for sure, make sure you have ample replacements. Because when you change something inside your company, what happens? I don't need to tell you this. In fact, it's the reason people don't make change. They don't change their culture is because they don't have replacements ready to go for the folks that don't want to participate or don't want to, I'm going home at 2 o'clock every day. I don't care what you say. If that's the case, you better be ready to replace those folks, right? All right. Let's go to the next step you can take to start changing your culture. You need to communicate over and over and over again. And when you're done communicating, do it again. So frequent, redundant, and copious communication between driver BC and AO is necessary during the entire process. You can't have one meeting, turn around and go, okay, that's good, my culture's changed. Nope. You have to communicate it all the time. And dare I say, every day. Use words and actions to convey your vision of the future. So what do, right? Well, we're gonna change some things. You got to actually do it, right? So another pro tip is craft a vision statement for your business. We can help you with that. A vision statement is your company's guiding beacon. Do the folks know what you're trying to accomplish? Right? Or they just come in and there's just a bunch of boxes all over the place and no one cares what's going on. You can tell a company that's well run or not based on, do the folks know what you're trying to do, right? Do your employees know what you're trying to do? And anyway, the most critical success factor for culture change lies with the BC and the AO. They must be seen as committed to the change, right?
Can I
If
add
you're
to
going to
that,
make some
Jeff?
changes, absolutely.
And it has to be a consistent commitment. I think that's where, well, we took a step back. Yeah, you can take a step back, but you got to make sure then the next day you're taking 2 steps forward. You have to be very, very consistent with this mission, and it's got to be driven, as Jeff says, by not just the AO, the BC. That BC is driving the bus in an opposite direction. It's not going to do you any good. Okay.
Okay, one more thing. This is a big one, and in fact, this will be a topic of here's the problem, or here's the thing. It's when you go to change things, what happens? People somehow get emotional, right? The AO and BC effectiveness in times of change have been found to be critically related to the use of emotional intelligence. So driver emotions have a strong influence on how they approach change. Most of you, I'm sure, would agree with that. Just keep in mind that most everyone's first reaction to any type of change is some sort of emotional response. It's not necessarily logical. You haven't thought it through, whatnot. If you say, hey, man, we're going to have to start picking up drop boxes at 5:30 in the afternoon. Everybody, not 4, not 2, 5:30. What's the first thing that's going to happen? Are they going to understand why that needs to happen and why, all these things are happening? No, they're going to say, yeah, I don't like that. That's no good. Whatever. They're going to spit the bit, as they'd say, right? You need to be ready to deal with folks' emotions as all the different things that are about to happen. All right. Okay, so we just kind of touched on a bunch of things in 15, 20 minutes. It's a lot easier to sit here. Yes, that's true. I hear this all the time. Well, Jeff, it's easy for you to sit there and tell us what to do. That's right. It is. But the point of what we're just trying to tell you here is that you need to start thinking about these things because this change is coming. whether it comes tomorrow, April, July, the fall, it's coming. No question about it. All right. So we think, and the reason we're going to change the focus of eTruckBiz is the time is now to start, first of all, communicating with the folks if you haven't already, but the time is now to start thinking about and acting on how to start changing your culture if that's what you're going to need to do. The time is now. We want you to think about getting ahead of everything, right? It's going to be a lot easier to go through the changes and whatnot if you get out ahead of everything.
I can't stress that enough, just because culture doesn't change overnight. Uh, Jeff and I back in the day have run some very difficult buildings and said there's days where you take steps back, but you got to keep going and keep going and keep going. And you've got to be consistent and you got to fight every day. And, just because you're fighting doesn't mean that you don't take a step back. But if you go in and not fight, you're going to take 2 steps back. So you have to be consistent, persistent, and continue with the mission and make sure that everybody on that team is involved. And if they're not, are you prepared to replace them? And you will have to replace some faces. There's no doubt about it. There are drivers that, for whatever reason, they have to come back at 2:30 to the building. It's not going to work in the new environment. So we've worked with customers that have gone through this change, and one, I can't commend them enough. Every one of his drivers used to come back to the building before 2 o'clock. Every single one of them, and they averaged about 70 stops per driver day. Now they're averaging over 100 stops per driver day, and they're out till 5 to 5:30 every night. Has it cost him a little bit more in wages? Yes, but has he generated more revenue? Just think it, 350 times 30 more stops per driver day. No doubt it's going to pay for itself. But once again, it's a culture change. For whatever reason, some people have to come back or want to come back at 2:30, and that's what you have to evaluate with each one of the employees. Do they have the ability or the desire? And if they don't have either of those, do you have people in place to replace them? Okay. Go ahead.
So, well, one more thing about especially culture change is whether anybody that's on here right now or somebody that's going to watch this later, if you would consider yourself an absentee owner or an absentee AO, or you don't get to the terminal that much, culture change is going to have to start with you. And if your folks don't see you and they don't see that you're committed to culture change, that some of the things that everybody does is going to have to change. If they don't, you're going to have to drive the bus on this one. Can't just throw a bunch of edicts out there and expect everybody to do it. It's going to need to come from you. Okay. There's probably a very good bit of advice. So, are there any questions or discussions about what we're going to do at eTruckBiz to try to be here to help you? What you're going to have to do, or some of the things you need to start considering as the transition is going to start taking place to Network 2.0.
Yeah,
I
as
guess
Jeff
everybody
said, you
gets
got to
it.
drive the culture. We're going to be able to help you with some of the engineering, definitely the tools. I assure you that our optics app now is unparalleled in the industry for tracking time definite shipments all the way from the preload until the point that they are delivered. So eTruckBiz is committed to this mission, but the culture is going to start with you. You have to drive it. As Jeff said, if you're absentee, you're going to have to get in there. Also, you're going to have to change some of your behaviors. You're going to have to monitor performance. And even if you're not in the building, we are going to give you the tools with the optics app and other things to track results, and you're going to have to be involved daily. And remember, it's going to take 21 days to change to change behavior. So it's going to take a lot longer to change some culture. So as Jeff stressed, start now. Okay. It doesn't look like we have any questions right now.
Okay, looks like culture's already changed everywhere, Ken.
That's a good thing. All righty. Well, we'll continue to drive the bus towards helping you make this transition, because it is a transition. There is nothing, or a transformation. And there's nothing more important to the success of your business. And it's, as Jeff said, it's going to give you the opportunity to take a marginally profitable business and really improve those results. So we're here for you every Tuesday. We're here for you every day, though. If you have any questions that you don't feel comfortable asking here, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Jeff, Becca, or any else on our staff. Bob is a tremendous resource for looking at your DRO. And we have our first question about that. The express versus ground is somewhat a win-lose proposition for corporate, us, and drivers. What are you hearing from the express side? You want that, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. Here's the thing. Express volume and the lion's share of it is coming over to ground. So you can do whatever with that you want. That's so I don't know what are you hearing on the express side. I'm not sure what that means as far as
I just talking to Gary, I mean, he still talks to some people over at Express. They know there's some hiccups, and they know that some of them are going to uh, be losing their jobs. A lot of them are offered positions at ground, as are the drivers. Uh, but it's going to happen. That has to happen. One FedEx is happening for a reason, actually for 4 billion reasons. So it's going to happen. Uh, yeah, and yeah, the market decisions. Word is there's an announcement coming later this week or next. I don't think they'll announce a specific locations, but I think there'll be some guidance on where it's going. But it's going. Like I said, there's 4 billion reasons why it's going.
the thought was, and I don't know if this has changed, but the major metro areas were gonna jump in last, except for a couple of test places. So depends on where you're at. If you're in a major metro area, you may be waiting a little bit longer for Express to come your way. We'll see. We'll see what happens here. One thing's for sure, and I think maybe that's what you're asking, and I already said it, but they're not gonna, they've already announced to the investment community that they've got a way to save $4, $5, $6, $7 billion a year. That's not going to happen by not changing anything, by not the way that's going to happen is by transforming the P&D network and the line haul network, and mainly the P&D network. So that's coming.
And they need the CSPs to do that, no doubt about it. And they need the CSPs to do it efficiently, because if the CSP can't do it efficiently, then they have to overpay. And when they overpay, they are no longer the low cost provider. So it's critical that you do it efficiently. Doesn't mean that you have to do it at a loss. That's why it's important as part of changing your culture. Do you know your numbers? How many stops per dispatch am I doing now? What's my revenue per dispatch? Will I lose some productivity? You might, and you might lose productivity from 8:30 or 9 till about noon. But my guess is it's more you might lose some productivity up until about 10:30, but after that, I'm going to tell you, you gain productivity just because of the immense 20% to 25% increase in your density. So you will make that back up. It's just a matter of how do I engineer it? Do I need a few extra routes in the morning that are part-timers? I don't know. That's something you have to look at. Once again, that's a culture. Do I have a full-time culture? Do I have a part-time culture? Do I have a culture that involves a mix of that? So engineering is definitely part of your culture, but the 6 points that Jeff said is all things that don't involve engineering, but it involves you driving the changes that are going to happen in your business. Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank you for the questions. We will be back here again next Tuesday, and I appreciate everybody's support. Please be back here next Tuesday and have a safe, profitable week. Thank you very much.